before we run out of time or battery power, the thing that was being talked about on the blogs yesterday was the second poem. So do you remember in the September 2019 interview, or October 2019 interview, where Forrest was saying how he hopes the finder will be anonymous. It's much easier for Forrest if he doesn't know the name. And several times he said, just shut up. I want the finder, just shut up. Then there was a brief edit in there. And then he went into talking about the second poem. Okay, so I know you and I talked about maybe being a second poem. We don't really know, but maybe. So what they talked about.
Forrest said there was.
Yeah, Forrest is saying that there was. Yeah. Okay, so last night, do you remember when Jack came out with his identity and then he wrote the two Medium articles? Well, the first Medium article, he was only the finder. Then in December, he came out as Jack Stoof. Do you remember him writing this quadplet in the Medium article that says, cold refreshing waters babble of your life, whistling pines proffer your wisdoms to sup. In your place, the mountains rumble your name. Can I even try to shut them up? Is there a possibility that the poem, the second poem, is this? And either Jack found it and put this in the Medium article, or we don't know. That shut up. It's like this was just Gallatin Ghost, and I think another guy by the name of Nomad Man talked about this last night, and it's like, holy cow. And then the other thing that this is so interesting is the fact that it's a quadplet, and Jack in the questions and answers right after he revealed his identity that he shared with us searchers, one time he said something about there is a connection to Eric Sloan. The only time Forrest, I think, talked about a quadplet was when he used the double omegas in $17 a square inch at the very end when Forrest wrote that quadplet to Eric Sloan. Thoughts?
I have no thoughts except to say that I really don't think that poem was written by Forrest. Whatever that's good for. Probably not much.
No. So this is good to get your opinion, because in the October 2019 interview, Forrest says to you that if Forrest is passed on, the test is found, and the finder is supposed to read you the second poem, you would know that Forrest wrote it.
Right.
So this, in my opinion, this is very important. That if Forrest would have passed away, Jack calls you and said, this is the second poem I'm supposed to read, and he reads this, you would say, what the fuck are you talking about? Is that correct?
Well, I'm doing this in hindsight. I think I would have been less... I think I would have been more likely to believe it if Jack had said at the time, oh yeah, there was a poem, and he read this to me over the phone or sent it in an email, or he said there was a poem and I somehow got this as the poem. I would be more likely to believe that Forrest wrote this. I'm hesitant to believe that now, that Forrest wrote this. I don't think Forrest wrote this. 2 years later or whatever, I don't see Forrest in those words. But in the expediency of the moment, I probably would have been more susceptible to believing that Forrest had written that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, right, when Jack finally revealed his identity in December of 2020, at least it was in the same year that the chest had been found.
Right.
So when you ask him, was there a second poem, and he could have said yes, and this was it. Yeah, I can see why then that would certainly make it more believable.
Yeah. But today, I have a hard time believing that Forrest wrote that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, people asked me to ask you that, so I did. So, do you want to talk about the ending? Whether it's Jack, I mean, do you just want to make any statements or thoughts about the ending?
No, I don't have anything to say. Everybody knows what I believe. I mean, I think even though I'm not participating in anything. I think that the only reason Jack found it was because Forrest led him to it. If Jack found it. If Jack is the finder, I don't care who the finder is. It was found because Forrest led it to them. Led that person to it. Gave them some information which made it possible for them to go to the place and find it.
Let's go back to what you were telling me several days ago when Forrest actually started talking about ending it in 2016 after Randy Bilyeu died.
Well, I don't think that was his idea to end the chase. I think what had happened was, you'll remember that the county...
It was the New Mexico police chief, Pete Caceres,
right,
demanded that Forrest end it.
Yeah, demanded. He said, Forrest and that guy were kind of buddies. I mean, they knew one another. And this guy said, Forrest, you need to end the chase. And of course, that's the wrong thing to say to Forrest. Of course he's going to say, oh, fuck you, no, I don't need to end the chase. You can't tell me what to do with my chase. And A, and B, he was not interested in ending it at that time. But, he considered what the guy had to say. And he asked other people whether that would be a good idea. But I don't think he would have, even if everybody had said he should have. At that point, okay, one guy did a stupid thing and lost his life, but after 5 guys did, and after this was dragging on, and after the searchers got to be demonstrated their complete and total wackiness, and after people threatened the life of his grandchildren and broke into his property and required him to actually, and his daughter to actually pull weapons to get somebody to get the hell out of there, it wasn't a joke anymore. It was important for him. It was important for him to somehow clean up this mess that he had left for his family and was burdening him,
Right. So Shiloh recently posted a text where he said the family had meetings discussing alternative endings, which I assume would have been spring, early summer of 2019. Did Forrest ever talk to you about the family having these private meetings and everyone discussing an alternative ending?
No, I don't remember him ever saying. But it doesn't. I mean, of course, Forrest. Oftentimes, it appeared that he made decisions without consulting other people. But I think oftentimes that was not the case. I mean, he did consult, particularly in items related to the chase. Although apparently he didn't discuss with his family beforehand, before he started the chase, whether or not it was a good idea to hide this treasure, because I think, right from the very beginning, at least as far as I know, in 2012, his family was against this whole thing, and Forrest was very pro for it at that point. I mean, he was very happy with the way things were turning out. He was delighted with it, apparently. But his family had some foresight. Whether they knew humanity better than Forrest did, or whether they were more logical.
That was probably just in that shot the whole time.
I don't know.
Oh well.
It's okay.
Okay, so now you have a water bottle over your face for all these important conversations, and I can't edit just the water bottle out.
You sure you can?
Not with the price it would take to do it.
At any rate, I think his family, I know from speaking with Shiloh at that time, that his family was definitely against the chase, that they did not like the treasure hunt. They foresaw problems that Forrest did not see, or that Forrest would not recognize, or that Forrest felt couldn't come to fruition. And and they were unhappy about it. And I believe they expressed that unhappiness to Forrest. I can remember one of the first times I went to visit Forrest, and Zoe and Kelly were there, and Peggy was there, and they were all saying goodbye to me, and they were saying, I think it was Kelly or Zoe said to me, you need to find that chest. And I said, well, I'm doing everything I can to figure out where it's at. And they said, no, you really need to find that chest. I mean, they were adamant about, they wanted this thing to be over. They were tired of it right from the very beginning, and that would have been in 2011. But Shiloh confessed to me in an interview that his family was not happy with this whole treasure hunt deal back in 2012. So right from the beginning, it seems like the family was not for it, and that must have been some pressure for Forrest too.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ever met Peggy was at the Too Far to Walk book signing. That was at, I think, the Loretto Inn, like November timeframe of 2013. And I introduced myself to her and talked to her, and said I was a treasure hunter, and she said, "I hope you find it." And it's like, well, I'm trying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they were pretty adamant about
they wanted it over.
Would find
yeah,
it.
They wanted it over.
And it's crazy.
And then that was before things got whacked, too whacked.
Right.
That was before Randy died even, and it was, I mean, I'm sure the blog had its ridiculous people at that point, but I don't know that. Well, Forrest had his email stolen at that point. I think that was early in the blog, where some kid stole his email and trying to get some clues, figuring that Forrest would have written something in email about it. But I don't think right off. I mean, it was quite a while. I think it was after Randy died before the threats seriously started coming in, and that wacko guy from your hometown, wasn't it Las Vegas he was from?
Oh, there were so many wackos. I'm not sure which one.
The one that actually took off and was headed toward Santa Fe. And
oh, you mean Paco?
Paco.
Yeah, Paco was from Vegas. Yes.
Yeah. And he was writing Forrest emails as he was driving, saying, I'm on my way. He was going after one of the grandkids because he felt that the grandkid was the treasure chest, and he was going to grab her.
Yes, he was a problem for a number of years. Yeah. So,
and there were other people. There were people. I mean, that was around that same time. There were other people. There was another guy from Colorado or somewhere Utah. That's where he was from, and he was on his way to kidnap one of Forrest's kids, and admitted it outright that that's what he was going to do. And I mean, things got really out of hand, and I'm sure that's when Forrest began to consider that he didn't know as much about humanity as he wished he did. That he never, this was stuff he never expected. And he may have even been told that this was going to happen by his family. They seemed to be more aware of the horrible nature of human beings than he was. And I don't know why. Forrest was well aware, but Forrest was he liked life and he had fun with it, and he thought he could make everybody feel that, I think.
And I think he did, many of us. So do you want to share any of your most favorite boots on the ground searches, or your most favorite story that Forrest ever told you, or something that happened with you that's not necessarily about Forrest per se, but something that just delighted you so much during your 10 years?
I think I wrote about all of those things, on the blog. So and they're probably much better written than they would be if I tried to spout them off here. But I love the characters that I met on the chase. I love that wacky preacher who I met and had breakfast with in Montana. I went in for breakfast. This was no, it was in Colorado. Anyway, I went in for breakfast someplace, and there was a guy sitting at the booth over here, and he was reading The Thrill of the Chase. He had it out in front of him while he was eating his eggs. And I had never run into anybody else who was looking for the chest before. This was early on. This was 2012 or something.
Oh, wow.
And so I decided I wanted to talk with this guy. So I made up some excuse about the waitress needed my table, and was it okay if I sat with him? And he said sure. And so I slid in on the other side of the booth and said, "The Thrill of the Chase, I know a little bit about that, da-da-da-da, and I'm looking for that chest too, and, how'd you come to look for it?" And he said that he was a preacher, and that his congregation sent him to look for the chest because to raise money for the church. And I got to talk with him more, and it turns out his church was a series of like ATM machines on the side of a building. You just drove up to them and you put in your credit card, and he spoke to you on a screen, gave you a sermon, and it was a spritzer, and you could push the button and it would, when you do holy water or whatever.
Oh my God. I never heard of this.
Yeah. And I said something about, is this very popular? He said, oh yeah. He said, moms love it because they can bring all the kids, pack them in the car, come to church. They don't even have to get out of their pajamas. And
oh my gosh.
And then we got to talk about it, and it turned out, and I said something, I don't know how it came up, but I said something about women in the church. I was born and raised Catholic. The Catholics have, very little to do with women. Are not allowed, in the sanctuary, or except for nuns, and when they clean up, it's okay to clean up the sanctuary if you're a woman, but and you have to cover your head if you're a woman, and when you go into church, and there's there are no women priests, and da-da-da-da. And so I don't talk with preachers very often. So I said something about the fact that there aren't any women preachers in the Catholic Church, and he said, oh yeah, he said, but there are in lots of others, and he said that's why I let me start that again. He said I know a thing or two about that. He said that's why I became a man.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, what? It never occurred to me that he had ever been,
right.
a woman.
Right.
I didn't.
Yeah, not back in those days.
But it just didn't occur to me. I mean, he didn't have any qualities that I attribute to a woman when I sit across from one. Anyway, and so this guy was a shock all over the place to me.
Yeah,
he was entertaining, but what an interesting, fun guy to run into on a search.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Or Yellow Hat.
Oh, Yellow Hat's one of my favorite stories.
I love that.
Yeah,
guy.
You wrote that. I mean, that's an old story, right?
Yeah.
Early searching in New Mexico.
And so was the preacher. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was when I just went up. I don't even know if I was searching when I ran into him up in Colorado. I was just headed home or something, or headed down to Santa Fe, one of the two. And there were lots of others, and there were interesting people on the blog who wrote fascinating stories about their searches.
Right.
I just liked that part, and I loved Fenbury. That was just a magical thing, that you and David Rice got going, and then you picked up and made fantastic. Those were just great outdoor parties. We had so much fun at those things. I loved those things.
Yeah, we really did, and they got to be so big that Sasha, I mean, it took at least two of us to put those on, and Sasha always did such a good job with the Saturday potluck and the games and whatever. Yeah. I mean, those were definitely some really fun times in the Chase community.
For you, had stuff for kids, Yeah, no, I mean, they were family affairs.
Yeah.
And people showed up in families.
Yeah.
And we just had a good time in those years. And Forrest would come out, and I can remember Forrest was hesitant about showing up to one of those. He told me, I don't think I should go. He'd say, I don't want to go. He'd say, I got invited, but I don't know those people, because by that time, there were some crazy searchers, and he knew, and he was worried. I mean, what if somebody tries something? And he said, I can remember, him saying, "Are you going to be there?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay." He said, "If you're going to go, I might go. And he did show up, and he showed up for all of those afterwards until the last one.
Yeah.
He'd wear his nasty old cowboy hat, and he'd just sit down, and you'd sit down next to him and just talk about anything.
Yes, yeah. He really got close to a lot of searchers that way, or they to him as well.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about, you think, a couple hours here?
Almost. I know I've aged.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, me too. What other thoughts, stuff you want to say to the people that are going to watch this? Like all 4 of us. Maybe 6 people will watch this. I don't know.
6?
Maybe 6.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple. Maybe 1,000.
I just want to thank you for everything you've done for the treasure hunters and for the search. And you've kept going. I dropped out. You kept going. You keep trying to make everything fun for everybody and make it exciting still. And you're doing a great job at it. And I really appreciate that. I think it's wonderful that you, of all people, stuck with it. I think it's crazy, but
I am. Yeah, I know. I don't really consider myself one of the crazy people, but who the hell would be in this 3.5 years after the chest was found, and 3 years after Forrest passed away? So I don't know. I am what I am. It's hard to let go. So speaking of, you basically seem like you could just walk away from it.
No, I can't.
Wow.
You've been in my cabin, though. I mean, I have memorabilia out there.
Right. I know.
I mean, I don't.
I
I don't pay any attention to what's going on the blogs or YouTube or anywhere else. I don't really correspond with anybody about the chase. Once in a while, I'll hear something and I'll ask you about it because you're my only source of information. But yeah, okay, that was fun, for 10 years, and now it's over. I have to go find something else to do.
Yeah, I agree about the moving on, and definitely you have to come up with another hobby or something else that you're obsessed with that, can replace the time spent. Because I know I poured my heart and soul into this for 10 years, and you did as well. Yeah, and you did as well. But I have found new hobbies, and I'm sitting in one of them today. And I think people need to do that. But at the same time, it ain't over yet. So I'm.
But for me, it is. I'm okay with it. I don't know how it actually ended, and I also know that I never ever will. That there will always be questions, and so, there are bigger issues for me that I think about and that worry me constantly, and that I want to consider. How come when I push that button up on the wall, the lights come on? I still haven't figured that out, but it works every time, but I don't know how. Those are the things that concern me now, not so much the chase. It's over. Okay, on to the next.
So if and when the Netflix project is actually ever aired on Netflix, is that something that you would watch?
Oh, yeah, I'd probably watch just to see what they get wrong. That's the only reason I ever watch any of that stuff, is just to see, so I can sit there in my all my mightiness and say, "Ha! They got that wrong. They don't know a thing." It's just something to do.
No,
but that's true about just about anything in life, isn't it? I mean, at first, when you get some new information about something you didn't think was possible, you're like, oh no, and you stay awake now. But after a while, it just becomes a part of life, and so on you go. And that's the way that the treasure hunt is for me. It was a fun thing while it happened. It's over now. I can't have any more fun with it, so I'm done with it.
I'm not. I was on the phone at 1 a.m. I'm sure I will be on the phone again tonight at 1 a.m.
Well, you're still
So,
having fun.
so, oh my gosh, last night I laughed so much with Christy that it's like, this is why I'm still doing this. I mean, there's still people that I just love that are still out there involved, and the laughing that I have done in the last week. So yeah, it is still mostly fun. So I'm hanging in there until it's over.
Well, it's great that the chase still has you in it. I mean, I think that's terrific, and Christy too. I don't know so much about anybody else, but you know, you two are valuable sources of information, and you're good people, and you know, you care about Forrest, you care about how this thing ended, and you care about putting a cap on it, and that's good for everybody. I can't believe how many people are still out there fascinated by this whole thing.
I agree. I can't believe there's so many as well, and you know, there's a good bit of negativity, especially towards like me and Christy. But then there's also positivity, and when it comes right down to it, I guess I don't care about, I mean, you know, people don't need to like me. They don't need to believe me, whatever. It does not matter to me anymore.
I like you.
Thank you very much. Folks, I'm going to talk into the camera. Dale just said he likes me. So there you go, all you bastards that talk so mean about me. And this will make the video.
This part's in for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And-
Wait, do
and-
that again. Look over there.
Are you photobombing it? Okay, Dale, thank you so much for the this time. Thank you for putting me up at your home. I'm going to give everybody your number in case anybody else wants to stay for free on Lummi Island for a while and ride a bike.
Absolutely.
And it was
Everyone
like, man,
is invited.
I mean,
The next
I mean,
jamboree should be at
geez,
Lummi Island.
oh my God! And can I talk about the grilled salmon that you made?
Oh,
and
yeah.
and
The one I caught?
yeah,
Is that the one you're talking
the
about?
fresh salmon that you caught and you filleted and you grilled, and Kathy made all the goodies to go with it, and it's like, oh my God, what a wonderful time. So anyway, no, seriously, thank you so much for your time and hospitality, and we will do this again next summer. We will do it next summer. Okay, very good. Bye, Forrest.
Bye.
Bye.